All right, it's 7 o'clock. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, October 10th meeting, regular meeting of Kimberley City Council. I guess after the long weekend, hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving weekend. It was, I mean, this weather that we've had the last week or so has been pretty spectacular for October. So I hope everybody's had a chance to really enjoy it. And I think the Thanksgiving, is even greater in when you consider all of the things that are happening around the world these days, both in the Ukraine and Israel and other parts of the world. We definitely have an awful lot to be thankful for. So with that, our meeting is being held here on the homelands of the Ktunaxa peoples. And Maurice, do we have any late items?
There's no late items, Mr. Mayor, with the exception of,
Beyond the correspondence.
yes.
So let's receive correspondence now. Could I have a mover to receive, please? Councillor McGuire, thank you. And Councillor Karen seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Next, we have adoption of the agenda. Given the late items, mover, please. Councillor Roberts, thank you. Councillor Royer seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Next up, we have the adoption of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on September the 25th. Mover, please. Councillor Royer, thank you. And Councillor Roberts seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. All right, we have a delegation this evening. The RADOT test kit challenge, basically the results of that. Troy, can you give us an update?
Yeah, I apologize. There must be some misunderstanding. I thought we had this set up for them to provide a brief overview of the results of the test kit challenge that we did last winter. So I think what I would suggest is if it's okay with council that this item be deferred, and we'll try to get them set up for the next meeting or whatever works best.
Okay, cool. Do we need a motion to do that, Maurice? Okay, motion to defer. Thank you, Councillor Royer. Councillor McGuire seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Thanks, Troy. Okay, first up tonight, we have the permissive tax exemption bylaw for consideration of first three readings. And that is the motion on the floor is that council give first, second, and third readings to the bylaw, and further that staff be authorized to undertake the requisite advertising in accordance with the community charter prior to bringing the bylaw back for adoption at the October 23rd regular meeting. Mover, please. Councillor Roberts, thank you. And Councillor Royer seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. I don't know that we really needed to do any. Were there any big changes to the process here, Troy? I should have asked for comments.
I think that one's Jim's item.
Jim was late, so we're good.
Well, let me get going on this one then.
That wasn't my fault. That was Jim's. Was there anything on the tax exemptions that you wanted to cover? I mean, for information at this point, obviously. I saw you weren't here yet, Jim.
Yeah, sorry, I was manning the front door here. It's inadvertently locked. So with regard to the permissive tax exemption bylaw, there's nothing out of the ordinary, Mr. Mayor. It's the 4-year term. The last time this was in front of council was in 2019. The 4-year term is now up. So in order to provide an exemptions beyond this year, we have to have a new bylaw adopted by October 31st. The only new exemption that's in the bylaw that wasn't there last year is the let's see here, is the new property at 255 Knighton Road, owned by the Kimberley Helping Hands Food Bank Society, just because in 2019 they didn't exist. And a couple that have dropped off are the Bootleg Gap Golf Society exemption, because we sold that property, as well as the Sunline. There were some exemptions related to that are no longer in this bylaw.
All right, awesome. I noticed that the value of the exemptions is down considerably, and that would be for those last two particular reasons. Yeah.
That's correct, yeah.
So just for public edification, the total value of the tax exemptions that we provide is $183,984. And these are primarily to not-for-profits, churches, that kind of thing.
Yeah, actually, the ones that are in front of council now are just with regards, they're in relation to not-for-profit groups and athletic groups and service clubs. The ones that relate to the places of worship, the independent school, they were provided with 10-year exemptions in 2019, so they'll be up in 2029. for
Okay, cool.
consideration. Yeah.
All right, excellent. Thanks for that, Jim.
Thank you.
Sorry to jump the gun on you.
No,
a little bit.
sorry, I was late.
Okay, just before we move on, council, any comments or anything? Pretty clear? Yeah. Okay, cool. Next up, we have the zoning amendment bylaw 2751, which is the M2 storage amendments. And we've been through first three readings and the appropriate process. And tonight we are here to adopt, which is the motion on the floor is that council adopt the bylaw 2751. Councillor Royer moves. Councillor Roberts seconds. Discussion. If any further at this point. Troy, was there anything changed between third reading and now?
The only new piece of information is just to confirm that Ministry of Transportation has given their final approval for the bylaw to move forward to adoption. So that's why we're back here today.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Next up, we have development variance permit for 229 Stemwinder Drive. And the motion on the floor is that council instruct the corporate officer to issue notice to neighbors. And we'll get Troy to, could I have a mover first? Councillor Royer and Councillor Karen seconds. If you can kind of explain the details, Troy, that'd be awesome.
You bet. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this application involves a proposal for a new house to be built, 229 Stemwinder Drive. They're looking for a variance to increase the maximum total floor area permissible in the house. Right now, the way the regulations are set up, they'd be limited to a maximum of 200 square meters, and they would like to increase that by about 14 square meters. 15, I guess, is the way we've crafted the variance. So increase from 200 to 215 square meters. It's really a fairly minor amount, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. But the main reason for this is one of the property owners is in a wheelchair, and for accessibility needs, there's a lot of different specialized doorway widths and turning radius, that kind of thing in certain rooms. So this way allows for them to build a house, a two-level house with includes a suite on the lower level. And they're really planning ahead that this gives them a lot of flexibility into the future if for any reason there's any issues with the elevator for accessibility between the floors. They can make sure that they're rearranging their living arrangements to suit their needs that way. So seems like a fairly reasonable request. And the way the regulation is set up, that it's actually based on the maximum floor area is based on the lot width. So because of the I guess relatively narrow front parcel line at 14 meters compared to a lot of other lots, although it is common on this particular block of lots on Stemwinder. That's where the restriction comes from. So they're still fitting in within the maximum floor space ratio, or the ratio of the floor area relative to the site area. So they still fit within that maximum, but it's just the actual total gross floor area that they require the little bit of extra floor area.
Yeah, awesome. That is, I was going to mention the narrow widths of those homes along that stretch on Stemwinder. It doesn't give you much room to kind of do much different. So yeah, thank you for that. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Troy, I just want you to state out loud whether or not there's any additional danger from having it closer to the outside lot allotment. Is it still safe?
Yeah, for sure. In fact, they're not proposing any, it's really just a matter of the total floor area here. They're not proposing to be closer to the side property lines or anything like that. So no change to that aspect of it at all.
Further? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Next up, we have the development variance permit for 280 Norton Avenue. And that the motion on the floor is that council approve development variance permit, the development variance permit to vary the section of the zoning bylaw as identified in the report. Mover, please. Councillor Cairns moves and Councillor Royer seconds. Discussion. Anything further on this one, Troy, since our third reading?
Yeah, so this one, yes, council approved to give notice last meeting. And so we're coming back here with recommendation to approve this variance. We did receive the one letter of submission that was the late item on the agenda there. So that's a letter from an owner of property from someone that owns property in Alpenglow Court, but actually lives elsewhere in town. And they were had some reference to I guess previous variance decisions that happened in that area. But I think despite those concerns, staff still recommend that we proceed with this proposed change here, the proposed variance for the extra height of this accessory dwelling unit. I think, yeah, I'll leave it at that unless there's any other questions or comments.
All right, council. Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried.
Good evening. The person with the number ending with 41, could you please identify yourself?
This is,
Hello?
can you hear me? I can hear
Yes.
you. This is Jason
Yeah, we
McBain.
can hear you now.
Okay, thanks.
I think we know who
All right,
you are.
this is Scott as well.
Hey, Scott. Hey, Jason.
Hello. Hey,
All right. Next up, we have development variance permit for 253 Stemwinder Drive. And the motion on the floor is that council instruct the corporate officer to issue notice to neighbors. Could I have a mover? Councillor Cairns moves, Councillor McGuire seconds. Discussion. Troy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So another proposed variance involving, in this case, an existing dwelling on Stemwinder Drive. In this case, the proponents are proposing to add a deck in the rear yard behind the existing house that, as presently proposed, involves or requires, I guess, two variances. One to increase the total maximum site coverage, which is a measure of the basically the percentage of the site that's covered or covered by buildings or structures. So in this case, the house and the deck would be included in that. And then they're also proposing to relax one of the side yards to allow the deck to be closer to a side yard to the east parcel line than would otherwise be required or allowed by the bylaw. The staff has presented a couple of options here and is actually recommending sort of a revised recommendation, I guess, compared to what the applicant is requesting. So like I said, the applicant's requesting two variances, one for site coverage, one for relaxation of the setback, the side setback. Staff suggests that, in our view, it's a large request that they're looking for. And what we've recommended here as an alternative response is to give notice for a single variance, which is to allow for some increase to the total site coverage that would otherwise be allowed, but to expect that the deck comply with the setback requirement. So it's a bit unusual, but I think in our view, because of it's a significant increase that they're looking for, they could actually build a fairly substantial deck without any need for variance. So staff's recommendation to kind of, I guess, find a balance or a middle ground there is to allow for some increase to the site coverage, but to require them to meet the side setback requirement. This, yeah, I'll pause if there's any questions there. I'll also point out that I think the applicant did call in to the meeting that if you have any questions for them, they might be able to speak to it as well.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Troy. So the drawings that are in the package here are the proponent's drawings, not what staff has recommended.
That's correct. This, yes, those are the proponent's drawings. That's correct.
Right. Tim, you're on the line. Did you wish to make a comment? Then we'll see if there's any questions.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor and councillors. I really appreciate you giving me a chance to explain why I've asked for the variance. The challenge with our house, we didn't design it. It was pre-built by Tai Homes, and the only access to the back is down the side of our house, and it's already had an existing variance approved where the concrete pad is right now. And we just want to continue that line on just for aesthetics purposes and also ease of access. There's no other way to access the house. And the reason for the scale of the decking is, sorry, I'm in New Zealand, the deck is we've been boxed in by two large houses either side of us, and we're just trying to get ourselves a little bit of breathing room. So because there's another challenge too, in that there's got to be an escape for the two bedrooms that are also at the back of the house, and the only exit way is via a deck. So we've got to keep it elevated. And so to do that, the hope is that we can then access the pathway system at the back of the house and encourage others to do that rather than using the road. And by pushing the deck out that further bit, we kind of achieve all things. Now, the neighbour on one side of us has built a large fence around his property, which is no problem to us, but it extends the entire way around. And we're just trying to keep the lines and the architectural view of that area so that it remains looking good, and try and get some breathing room from the neighbours, and also make it so that it's easily to access, because like I say, it can only be accessed down one side. And as you correctly pointed out, Mr. Mayor, it is a rather narrow lot and there isn't much living space in the existing home. So we're just trying to make the best of both worlds. Our intent isn't to make it an outdoor kitchen or anything like that. It's just simply to extend the enjoyment of the property without having to shovel in lots of dirt, which we'd have to do if we went a landscaping route. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for those comments, Tim. Council, any questions or comments? So the motion on the floor is to instruct notice to neighbors. So go ahead, Troy.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to clarify that the motion on the floor is for the single variance, as staff are recommending. So if there's some desire by council to give notice for both variances, then that would require amendment of the motion, which is fine. Either way, I guess the thing I would point out is if council wishes to entertain the two variances, then they should make sure that the motion on the floor is amended to mention both variances. Council would still have the option at decision stage to approve only one, but not the other. But like I said, staff's recommendation is that we think that they can achieve a lot of the objectives they're trying to achieve with the larger deck, but still respect the required maximum or minimum setback, sorry. And still, like I said, still achieve a lot of those objectives for improving access and usability of the yard there.
All right, thanks, Troy. Just thinking out loud here. The notice to neighbors, if we go with the two variants, that will give us the latitude to continue talking with the proponent over kind of what staff is recommending versus what the request has been. And then we can deal with that at the forthcoming meeting, kind of whichever way that ends up going. That makes sense to everybody? Okay, so we'll need an amendment then. What is the, what would you recommend, Troy? What do we need to do in order to modify that motion?
I would suggest that to amend the motion to follow that as laid out in response option 1 of the staff report.
Okay,
Also move. Oh, the original?
the original. Yeah, Councillor Karen's.
Yeah, I'll move the amendment as well. And that's just moving to response option 1.
Councillor Roberts. As amended. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. So that will be the notice to neighbors going out. Okay, cool. Thanks, Troy. Okay, next up, we have the revised community grants policy. And the motion on the floor is that council approve the revised policy originally adopted May 17th, 2015, as attached to the report from Manager of Community Development, who is here with us tonight to speak on this as soon as we have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Royer moves and Councillor Roberts seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Cal.
This policy has actually undergone several revisions since the 2015 original date. Every year we do have a look at it in consultation with other departments, and this year in consultation with the Officer Operations Department and the Parks and Facilities Manager, we've opted to look at removing in-kind grants from the listing or the availability of project and event grants for all applicants. In the past, we've had upwards of $60,000 in cash and $60,000 of in-kind grants going out. And it's an astronomical amount of work for our staff. It's often backbreaking work, and it does certainly take time away from other things that we're doing. But what we've also noticed is that the majority of the organizations that are getting in-kind grants are not actually using the full amount that they're receiving. So what we've decided to do is remove in-kind grants. We won't take away the ability of not-for-profit organizations to be able to ask the city for staff time and for staff equipment or that type of thing. We will still allow them to get those things. We'll just charge them back. So what we'll do for the first couple of years is help them with the recreation fees bylaw to develop exactly how much money that they need in city staff time or city equipment. And then we will put that forward to council. Council will vote, and then that's the amount of cash that we will give them. So then they can take that cash, they can go and get those materials from another organization, from Sandor, they can hire volunteers to do it, or they can absolutely call the operations department and our staff will still do the work. So we're not taking anything away. If anything, I think the majority of the organizations will be happy about this change. I have discussed this with our biggest in-kind grant users, which is Center 64, as well as the Kimberley Chamber of Commerce for July Fest, and they are very open to this change. They see that it actually will probably benefit them in the end, and then we will work with all the other organizations. So this year we only gave out $17,000 in total in-kind, and we haven't used a lot of that. I've actually had some of those people come back and say that they aren't going to be using the in-kind funds, and it just ends up back in the city pot. So I think the majority of those organizations will welcome the change, but I'm certainly open to taking questions about it. I know it is a little bit of a difference from previous policy.
Councillor Royer.
Thank you, Pam. So I got a couple of questions and concerns. I like the in-kind, but the only thing I'm concerned with, because I volunteer and you know that. My own concern is the nonprofit organization doesn't want to get a surprise bill. They will know exactly what the bill will be. Is that correct?
They will know exactly what the bill will be.
Okay, that just makes me feel a whole lot better. Thank you.
No problem.
So a question, Pam. So $17,000, that's what we allocated in kind in total
In 2023.
in 2023. And what is the estimate of the actual amount of in-kind work we did if we were looking at?
We're probably at about 13,000. That doesn't include July Fest, which they do get a standing grant. And that's a separate pot of money. It's not in that project and event grant money. We will convert that to a cash grant.
Okay,
And it doesn't include the Kimberley Trail Society portion of in-kind funding that they get, which is about $2,500.
right. Okay. Yep, sounds good. Go ahead, Winnie.
Yeah, I'm not totally following. So we're allocating a certain amount of money right now for in-kind. What's that number?
We're not allocating a specific amount of money. We have about $130,000 every year to give out. Or I guess Jim could probably stress or let us know what next year's is. Sorry, Jim, I should have asked you today. I think next year will probably be about $132,000 to give out. If every applicant asked for in-kind, at the way the policy reads now, we could essentially end up with $130,000 of in-kind of staff, time, and equipment.
Got it. Thanks.
So otherwise it could be $130,000 in cash and nobody would ask for, but there's no allocation between in-kind and cash grants that we don't divide it up. It just comes in as per the grant.
Okay, thanks. That clarifies it for me.
Thank you.
And I guess that means that, any of the organizations could kind of do their own. I mean, they're going to get the cash and they could, through volunteers, actually get the job done and be ahead of the game based on where they're at today. And we're ahead of the game too, because staff are doing what they're getting paid to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the main
The
premise
bottom
here.
line. Okay. Any further comments, council?
I just have one more question with the city. Can a city worker volunteer their time if they choose to?
Absolutely.
Jason, just a quick check. Was there any comment or question you might have had on this?
No, I'm good.
All right, cool. Well, go ahead, Councillor Roberts.
I just want to say, when we did this originally, we were looking at putting a definition on how much money we were actually going to give away. And then that was defined as 2% of the taxable income that we received.
The variable tax rate.
Yeah, variable tax rate last year. So we know each year that there's going to be a lump sum. At that time, there was not a lot of information to figure out exactly what in-kind would look like. And it seems to me that if I'm an organization and I'm going to need a specific amount of work to done by others than my team, that I would be quite willing to sit down and figure out how much that was, so that when I put my application in for my grant, that I had included those costs in there when I asked for the grant, rather than having to isolate it out to be in kind, because I don't know how we can possibly put Kimberley City value on what in-kind is going to be. You see, they wanted $7,500 worth of in-kind, and we said yes. Well, how many hours is that? How many people is that going to take? Who's going to be accountable for adding that up? It just seems so cumbersome. I like the idea of having the applicants include their in-kind costs inside of their application and not extrapolating it out, so that everybody knows what everybody's doing. Just makes more sense to me.
Great points. Theoretically, you could get to a point where they've asked for X amount of in-kind for us to do. We get halfway there and they've used up the amount. What are we going to do? Walk away? Probably not. And I suspect that we've got an awful lot of these events and projects where we just kind of keep working and there's a lot of unallocated hours in there. So this is much cleaner. It sounds much cleaner. As usual, we'll see how it works out. And after we get through this season and figure out how it works, if there's any issues, we'll fix them when it comes to next year.
The other side of it is that we give them $7,500 for stuff that they don't use. The money goes unspent, and that's not fair to everyone either. So I think this is a better choice all the way around.
Right. Awesome. Thank you for those comments. So we'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? You good, Jason?
Good.
Okay, thanks. What we'll say is if your vote is going to be a nay, come in. Otherwise, I will leave you to it.
Yeah, it's hard on the phone. I'm trying to kind of follow along here, and it sucks.
Yeah, the phone is is a bit of a challenge.
Mhm.
All right. Pardon me. Next up under new business, we have the Community Emergency Preparation Fund. The motion on the floor is that council direct staff to apply to UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund Volunteer and Composite Fire Department's Equipment and Training Program. Boy, I'm not even sure there's an acronym for that. For 100% of their required funds to purchase 31 sets of dual certified turnout gear. And further, that if the application is approved, council directs staff to include two. I was just going to say, I think we need two there. Okay, so first motion as truncated. Councillor Cairns moves, Councillor McGuire seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. And secondly, now that if the application is approved, council directs staff to include an expenditure of $27,900 in year one of the 5-year financial plan, with the identified funding source being the grant revenue anticipated through this grant application. Mover, please. Councillor McGuire, thank you. Councillor Royer seconds. Before we vote on this, Chief, did you want to make a comment on kind of the importance of what we're doing here?
Yeah, no, dual certified gear kind of just goes over everybody's head, right? So what that means is just it's going to have wildland protection as well as auto X protection to cover our PPE that we require on these kind of calls, just so we can do multiple things, right? With this gear, it's also going to prevent our structural gear that we have right now from getting beat up and having to service that more often, right? It's going to be more of a ability to keep our gear for what we need it for. So that's the idea behind the grant.
All right, awesome. Is this a new funding stream that's come on board?
It's probably been around for the last few years, but we really didn't have an idea of how we were going to spend this. So last year we kind of looked at what our needs were, and then this year we pulled the trigger with application of the grant if it is supported by council.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Chief. Last call for comments. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. All right. Fingers crossed. So the next item is the summary report on the Take Action Radon program. We'll defer that along with the presentation. And we don't need a motion on that, do we? You would like one? Could I have a motion to defer? Thank you, Councillor Roberts, and Councillor Royer seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. All right, next up, we have the quarterly permit activity report, and the motion on the floor is the council receive. Motion, please. Councillor McGuire, thank you. Councillor Cairns seconds. Discussion. Lead us off, Troy.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so another quarterly permit report up to the end of September. So yeah, we're at a slower start to the year, but things have really picked up here through the summer and fall, or into the fall. We've had a few sizable permits issued in recent months, and you can see in the second chart there of the first page, our total construction values up to the end of September have pretty much reached where we finished off the year last year, which was a record year for a good number of years there. Similarly with new dwelling units, we've already hit 105 new dwelling units this year, which with a few more months to go, I know there's a few more multifamily permits coming in the next couple of months that we anticipate. So this will be quite the year in terms of new dwelling units and total construction values. I've added a chart in here about housing diversity that just shows a real positive trend with the increase in the number of multi-unit residential units that are being created here this year compared to most previous years. Pretty much every year, single unit dwellings are always the most common new unit type, and this year for sure we're going to have a year where multi-unit residential is the most common new dwelling type, which is great to see. Also added another just another note to the bottom of this page here that even though we're having a really exceptional year so far, there's still quite a few multi-family units that are what we would classify as to be expected. So these are units that are accounted for in previous development permit approvals. So council's sometime in the last couple of years here has approved a development permit, but we haven't yet seen the building permit applications for those units. So there's at least about 113 more units that we would expect to see. Some of those I think we'll definitely see before the end of this calendar year. Some of those will probably be deferred into 2024. And I guess hopefully the rest of them we'll see in 2024. But there may be a few of those that just get deferred for various reasons. And I also would just point out that doesn't actually include the sort of individual lots, say in Forest Crown or Marysville Views, Sullivan Landing, where we still have some empty lots suitable for probably single unit dwellings or 2-unit dwellings, perhaps some other stuff there. But so there's still quite a lot of potential out there, I guess, in the community, and hopefully we'll see that there. So otherwise, the rest of the report is the general building permit statistics, and happy to try to answer any questions that you may have.
Yeah, thanks for that, Troy. It is, it's been a while coming on some of these are really big projects, and an example of what you were talking about for these other 113 would be the West Castle development down by the golf club. The building development permit was for 60 some units, and yet the building permits have only been for 20 of those. So in that 113 would be the other 40 units. Right. So we have a few of those. It is just so good to see finally the multi-unit rental, and the majority of these on multi-units are all rental coming into or will be coming into inventory. Sadly, I guess it's going to be another 12 to maybe as much as 24 months before we're going to start seeing actual, folks being able to move in. But judging from what I hear around the regional district table, the fact is we have these things underway now past the development permit stage, and we are considerably ahead of a lot of other communities, certainly in the regional district with respect to this inventory coming on board. I would like to especially recognize Tyee, who continue to do amazing work here in town for their contribution to this, to Harvest Management for the 39 units that they're putting on Rotary, and to West Castle for the 20 that are underway now, but the 60 that will be coming on board. I really appreciate the confidence that they're showing in the community to make those types of investments. Council, comments or questions? All right. Under the wire, Council.
Sorry, well, it's kind of a sense of relief in a way, because we haven't been able to walk anywhere for 2 years without somebody saying, what are you going to do about lower cost housing, or the fact that there's no place to rent, or that everybody's doubling up and you can't get employees because nobody can find a place to live. It's just, thank goodness we can finally see that there's something going to happen. It's just been very trying.
So
for
thank you
everyone.
for the comment, because one thing I should mention that I think is important to all of these rental developments, the multi-unit rentals that we have going on. First of all, they're not low-cost housing. This is market housing that's being built. However, they are all part of one or other of the CMHC programs, which dictate that a certain percentage of the doors are either way below market value or below market value, depending on the number of units that are going to be allocated. So this will in fact add income tested inventory into what we're doing now as well. And depending on the number of units in total that comes in, I think it's 10%. Although it might be a little bit higher depending on the program that the developer is going through at CMHC. So we're kind of killing two birds with one stone here. And not to forget that we also have both the Valley View not-for-profit and the Seniors Project not-for-profit that are both looking to expand the lower cost housing that they have both been providing and managing over the last number of years. So they've been having those projects are through BC Housing, and things don't move quickly through BC Housing. And I know they've kind of stubbed their toes a couple of times on these projects, but nonetheless, these are great groups with people that persevere. So I think ultimately we're going to have inventory at both ends of the spectrum. Okay, call the question on the report, receipt of the report. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, next up we have the gymnastic facility reconstruction, or the reconstruction of the facility for the gymnastics club is probably the better way to phrase that. Specifically the fire alarm and geotechnical costs. The motion on the floor is that council directs staff to prepare an amendment to the 1 year or to year one of the 5-year financial bylaw to increase the budget for this facility reconstruction by 36,000 and some odd dollars to accommodate unanticipated geotech expenses in the order of about $10,000 and the installation of a fire alarm system for $25,000. And further, that council directs staff to use 36,000, the combination of those, from the general operating capital reserve to fund the budget increase. It's a mouthful, but can I have a mover, please? Councillor Royer moves, Councillor Karen seconds. All right, who is going to speak to this? Nick? All right, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, as indicated there's two separate requests for funding increase to the gymnastics facility reconstruction. First one, as mentioned, is related to the geotechnical costs. So that's $10,000, and the second one is for the fire alarm system. So the first one there for the geotechnical costs, council may recall that we approved a small addition to the original building footprint when we entered into the reconstruction of this facility. So those geotechnical costs are strictly related to that small addition piece of the new building size. So it's only a fraction of the total cost as part of the rebuild in terms of the geotechnical. So it's about 10%. So the total cost for geotechnical items was about 100,000, and then our portion is about 10,000 on that one. And then the second item is the fire alarm system. So as mentioned, the building is just under the footprint that requires fire alarm per code. However, knowing the final use of the facility and kind of the reason we're here to begin with, we're recommending that a fire alarm system be installed. It's a small percentage of the total cost of rebuild, and would recommend there be a prudent move to put that system in place.
All right, thanks, Nick.
Any further
Councillor?
questions?
Councillor McGuire, go ahead.
Yeah, so the geotech I totally get. Just on the fire alarm, does this fire alarm essentially mean that that we can I guess monitor it when it's not in use? Is that kind of the idea? So it would be an automated system that if the fire happened when nobody was in the building, that the fire department would still be notified. Is that kind of the reasoning behind it? I'm just struggling with, the generalization of like, the intended use and the reason that it originally happened. I'd just like some more details or a fuller explanation on that.
For sure, yeah. Thank you, Councillor McGuire. You are correct. It's a 24/7 monitoring system that would automatically dial the fire department should the fire alarm go off, versus a system that would need somebody to notice that the building's on fire if it's unoccupied at the time before emergency services would be called. So it would tie into our monitoring system and call out to the fire department automatically. Yeah.
Next week. Further? Councillor Roberts?
Just for my personal clarification, so there was no intention to have any fire alarm previous to this? So there was nothing originally in the budget for it at all?
That is correct. As per the code, it's not required for this size of facility. It's just under the footprint that would require one. I mean, there would be smoke alarms and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I hear you. Just it's the way that it was disappeared in the first place. I would have thought the very first thing we would order would be a fire system. That's just me, I guess. But anyway, I'm surprised that there wasn't one in there.
Thanks, Councillor Roberts. I have, kind of a simple question here, I think. When I think of geotech and requirements for geotech, I think of escarpments, I think of Deer Run and, the lots and building on, drops or raises or whatnot. This is in the middle of the city, a completely flat lot. I would have never thought geotech would. So what are we talking about when we talk geotech for something like this?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Great question. What was discovered at time of excavation for the footings was the material that was in place was non-native fill, unsuitable material to be putting the foundation on. So what ended up happening is we had to dig down further than anticipated and then bring that back up with an engineered fill. So import material.
So the unintended consequences. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you for that, Nick.
Thank you.
Last call. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. All right, next up, we have the community to community funding application. And the motion on the floor is that council direct staff to make application to UBCM, the community to community or C2C grant program to provide funding for future meetings between the City of Kimberley, Council, and Chief and Council at Com Community. Mover, please. Councillor Cairns, thank you. Councillor Royer seconds. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor McGuire.
Is this something we would apply for with a COM? I'm just a little confused on how it works. Is this money coming directly to us and then we specifically allocate it to those meetings?
Yeah, Scott, can you articulate that, please?
One community makes the application and a letter of support is provided from the other community. So ACOM has even fewer staff than we have at the moment. So we thought it would be helpful if we made application.
Yep, awesome. Thank you, Scott. Further? All those in favor? That motion is carried. Next up, item number 6 under new business is the Accessibility Advisory Committee Terms of Reference. The motion is that council endorse the terms of reference as attached in the report and that council direct staff to seek applications for membership for the Accessibility Advisory Committee for the 22 to 26 term. Mover, please. Councillor Cairns and Councillor Royer seconds. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Royer.
I read the whole thing and I understand everything. The only thing I'd like to know is there's going to be an ad in the newspaper going out after this meeting sometime in the future. Is that correct?
Yes, we'll have an ad in the paper.
Yeah, when?
Most likely next Tuesday, but we'll do some social media as well. We do.
Absolutely awesome. Everybody's so excited. Everybody's been trying to get this thing going, so I'm all for it.
Yeah, we're a little bit behind where we'd hoped to be at this point, but got a good guy at the helm, so thank you. Okay, next up is the Kimberley Trail Society appointment.
We didn't get it.
Oh, all those in favor? That motion is carried. Thanks for the reminder on both of those, the further. All right, Kimberley Trail Society appointment. The motion on the floor is that council appoint Councillor Dunneback as city liaison to the Kimberley Trail Society for the term ending October 2026. Councillor Cairns moves. Councillor Royer seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. He does now. All right, and last up under new business is the check run in the order of $279,568 to be approved as paid. Councillor Roberts moves and Councillor Royer seconds. Any non-routines at 279,000? Probably not.
No routine. It's a bit short. The girl was taking a vacation, so we just did that part of it run.
Okay.
Nothing unusual.
Call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried. All right, we have 4 items of correspondence tonight. 2 with potential action. Let's start with those 2. Could I have a mover to receive? Councillor Royer, thank you. And Councillor Karen seconds. Council, the email from Gail Mitchell. Any comments? Go ahead, Councillor Karen.
It's requesting support for alkaline hydrolysis to be added to the definition of cremation. And so essentially a green cremation, and they provided a sample resolution, and having looked at it, the reduction in carbon emissions, the reduction in air pollution, less land use, it looked like a really good move to me. So I would support this.
I know I'm on the line, but I support this too.
Further comments?
So are we moving that that resolution?
Well, there isn't a resolution on the floor as of now. We're getting comments on the letter, the correspondence that's come in.
This be an appropriate time to put that resolution on the floor?
The easiest way for reporting in the minutes would be that you vote on receipt. And then if you want to put some resolutions for actions required under the 2 letters, that would be a good time.
So, yeah, so to be clear, any motion would be that Kimberley City Council supports the amendment to the CIFSA Act and or regulations therein to allow for alkaline hydrolysis to be included as a permitted form of disposition of deceased persons in the province of British Columbia. So this is coming before the province, and they're looking for essentially what is a letter of support. Correct? It's a letter of support, basically.
It is, yeah.
So that's what the motion is to provide the letter of support. So Councillor Cairns has moved that. I take it? Okay. And Councillor Royer seconds. So do we have any further discussion? All those in favor? Or is anyone opposed? Motion is carried.
So
And
at this point, you haven't done receipt? Like you haven't voted on receipt?
yeah,
Of
this
the
was a
correspondence.
motion from within the.
Okay.
We'll come back and after we deal with Healthy Kimberley.
Okay.
Yeah. See. Okay, Healthy Kimberley has requested essentially that the funding provided to Healthy Kimberley become a standing grant, and that is basically what is in the correspondence. Pam, can I put you on the spot and ask what we have provided Healthy Kimberley in the way of support through the community grants program?
Absolutely. I did speak with Shannon today, and she did have one error in this presentation on slide number 3. She just states that each year averages, and the second bullet point says 40,000 meals produced. That's the total number since Healthy Kimberley has been in operation. That number should read 15,000 meals produced each year. So in the last 2 years, which is the time that Healthy Kimberley Food Recovery Depot has been receiving a standing or a project events grant, they received $8,583 this year, and last year they received $8,929. So yeah, council has supported this organization in the past. All organizations are eligible to apply for a standing grant, and essentially what we do now is take this request and we can put it on the voting spreadsheet for when we vote on project and event grants coming up in a month from now. And then council can make a vote on it at that point.
As to
if
whether or
that
not
works.
we move to a standing grant versus.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just also, so council's aware that standing grants will come out of the project and event grant of funding. And it'll just be moved over to the standing grant funding that we currently give to those 4 other organizations.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Pam. No action required at this point. We'll look forward to the process unfolding here in the next few weeks. Anything further? All right. Hearing no further, let's call the question on receipt. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. All right. We had 2 other informational items. Could I have a mover to receive? Councillor Cairns, thank you. And Councillor McGuire, seconds. Any comments? Call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried. All right. That brings us to a close of the regular agenda. We do have 3 items for in camera this evening. But in advance of that, we will now open up for questions from the public, both online as well as in council chamber. And if you are watching online via the YouTube channel, you can call in and ask questions about anything contained in the meeting this evening. And to do that, please call 800-741-7180. And when prompted, the meeting number is 2771-331-9771. And while we're waiting to see if anybody calls in with questions, before I do that, we've got a couple folks in. Any questions or comments from our gallery? Okay, so we'll do our roundtable on what has transpired for City of Kimberley business in the last 2 weeks. Let's start with Councillor Roy.
Sure. Not a whole lot to report.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, you're funny. Just one item that's coming up in the near future, the Halloween Howl sponsored by the Mercury Lions Club. So the kids will get free hot dogs and hot chocolate. So on Halloween night, October 31st, mark down your calendar up in the town site and Marysville.
A shameless plug.
Absolutely. And that's all I have to report right now, but I will have the other new ones starting, so there'll be lots to report.
That's awesome. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Sandra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not too much to report. I'm begging off of an Arts Council meeting tonight because our meeting has moved. But I have to just mention what a wonderful afternoon we spent in the Platzel for Oktoberfest on Saturday. I can't remember one that has been more well attended or where more people were in a great, warm, friendly, exciting atmosphere. It just felt like a really neat place to be. The music was awesome, and the food that the Elks were making, they were lined up down the Platzel, and it was just really nice. So
thank you for that, Sandra. Sue, you have been away.
I've been away, and it's nice to be back. And I came back most recently just from the Economic Trust of Southern Interior BC board meeting in Kelowna, which was end of last week. And next October, it's going to happen here. So looking to arrange a tour of the Kimberley Heritage Museum and the Underground Mining Railway. So talking with Kevin a little bit about that. But the members of the board were really excited to come to Kimberley.
Awesome.
And
They've never been here.
not
Yeah,
as a
the
board,
first, yeah.
not as a board. Mhm. And so lots going on around building science. That seems to be coming up quite a bit right now for improved affordability, energy efficiency, and emissions. So there's the Climate Friendly Homes Tour, Saturday, October 14th. Great opportunity for policymakers ourselves to see local homes that showcase innovation. And last Friday afternoon at the there was the Kimberley's Builders Barbecue, where education was provided by the building industry and supported by RDK and the Kootenay Clean Energy Transition, Community Energy Association, East Kootenay Climate Hub, and others. And so it was a public learning event for anyone interested in kind of do-it-yourself approaches to innovation. And more on the topic of buildings and also air quality was at UBCM, where the senior scientist from the BC Centre for Disease Control spoke about health impacts of wildfire smoke. She spoke broadly about the cognitive, respiratory, prenatal, and mental health impacts, and she cited strategies to reduce exposure, talked quite a bit about the quality, air filtration and ventilation in buildings, talked about portable HEPA filters, including the do-it-yourself filters made of box fans. We've been making some in community here, but it was interesting to see that she brought those up. Spoke about being prepared in advance, basically avoiding exposure. So at that presentation at UBCM, there was a environment climate change meteorologist that stated very quickly right after she spoke, because she made reference to the new normal, kind of get used to it, and he was very adamant that he actually said to elected leaders, I never ever want to hear people say that this is a new normal, because it's not a new normal. Our emissions are on an ever warming trajectory. And this past summer will seem very tame in the future if we continue that trajectory. And that to find a new normal, we have to stabilize our climate, and can only do that by transitioning off fossil fuels. So it was very stark, and that was really the message that was provided by the Ministry of Forests climatologists as well, sort of building out that message. And that it would take all levels and sectors of society to make the necessary transition in a timely way. So those were just a couple of points around the not speaking to the other items that happened at UBCM, but they were kind of tied in together with the building piece. So I'll leave it there for now.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Woody.
Yeah, to report, I did attend a food hub meeting. It was interesting. They had a successful event by the sounds of it out at the train museum in Cranbrook. I think that's what it's called. And it sounded like they had good engagement and a pretty successful event. So that's exciting to see them, a new organization within the community offering talks and information about food sustainability. I also attended the Truth and Reconciliation Walk as well as the powwow on the weekend. Ended up being there the whole day. That was quite nice. It was well attended, a little bit soggy, but well attended.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Other than that, I've got my first chamber meeting next Monday, and you'll hear more about that next meeting.
Next time. Awesome. Thanks for that, Woody. Do we have anybody on the line?
There's no
Sorry, Matt.
public, but Councillor McBain's
Yeah.
on the line.
Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I'll give, I recently had a library committee meeting, but there's nothing really of temporal significance, so I'll just update the crew the next time I'm there in person.
All right. Awesome. Thanks. Go ahead, Sue.
I forgot to mention about CORE this coming week. Perhaps you're mentioning city to send a representative to the Kootenay Outdoor Recreation Enterprise Initiative Summit that's happening next week. So it's happening on Thursday and Friday. And
This week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is Monday now.
Yeah.
Or it's Tuesday.
Well, welcome back.
Yeah. So just wanted to highlight the exciting list of speakers that are going to be here, and what a unique opportunity it is. And I actually had put it on my calendar some time ago to attend, but I thought it would be a topic of conversation to raise here tonight, just around who would be who would be the people who might be representing the city there. So sorry to bring that in late, but want to mention it. Yeah.
This is the second. There was a summit held last year. It's actually the first. This is only the second. Last year was the first of a outdoor gear manufacturers to be held in Canada. It's the organization is not that new anymore. I think it's 4 years now, I guess, since it was incorporated. And it's an economic development initiative. It's meant to not only help grow existing gear makers in the Kootenays, but also attract those kinds of companies, whether they're doing R&D, prototyping, manufacturing, but it's to attract those jobs from outside the Kootenay region into the Kootenays. It was always meant to be an economic development initiative, and it's actually pretty exciting. It checks off an awful lot of boxes for what everybody's trying to do in the communities that we have out here with respect to jobs growth and the kinds of jobs that fit, in the communities that we have out here. I would encourage anybody who has the opportunity to attend. It's on Thursday and Friday. So I appreciate that there are some of you that have job commitments that would make that difficult. But if you don't, I highly encourage you to have a look. In addition to the speakers, it's an opportunity to find out from these gear manufacturers, what's it going to take to get you to move to our community or expand to our community, or what is it that we can use to attract other companies to come into communities. These are really high performance entrepreneurs, and it's a very motivational environment. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Sue.
Just a note that Kevin was asking the city to bring like a banner or something to show
Yeah,
up
some
there and have some
free
presence.
advertising,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll maybe touch base with Pam after we'll have a chat. Okay, Woody's on the phone. Oh, okay, I'll before we move into in camera, I'll run down kind of a summary of the major items that I've been working on here the last couple of weeks. I had another meeting with the local folks here regarding the health center. We are attempting to get a pot of money from sources that will enable us to go in and create an environment up there that is going to attract business. If we don't make modifications to that building, there is no hope that we're going to be able to fill the third floor or much else in the building, quite frankly. We're making headway on that, and I'm very optimistic that while these things take time, we're getting a lot of people nodding their heads, and it's a matter of working through the process. And Megan Purcell, Ingrid Lipa, and Sean Van Zyl have been providing a lot of direction on the advocacy that's required to make this happen. So that is continuing. Scott and I had a meeting with the CAO at Cranbrook, one of the councillors, and with Sophie Pierre and Mike Frank, who's the CAO at Occam. It was a discussion about the situation with the urban deer, and at some point, given the count that we had last year of 200 and some odd deer, and several incidents that have been reported this year, it's only a matter of time before we will need to remove some deer from the community. And so we are looking for a letter of support from Occam in particular for what that initiative might look like. And they in turn, not they, but the First Nations in turn through the Angel program, the food banks in Kimberley and Cranbrook and other agencies will be the recipient of the meat that comes from any deer that will be removed. And yeah, so we're basically starting that process. The province is driving the bus on this. This is not a city initiative in any way. The fact is that we have no tools left in the toolbox for us to be able to take action or to allow any download of that activity, quite frankly, which has happened over the years. And so we're working in conjunction with the provincial ungulate manager to come up with a plan that's going to enable us to take care of any public safety issues that we have here in town. I was on a provincial nominee program call here last week. They made some changes to the program, and this is not only now for immigrant entrepreneurs, it's also for international workers with skills that we need that are looking to immigrate permanently at some point to Canada. We have, as everybody knows, there's a skills shortage in a whole bunch of major areas. The province has identified an opportunity through the PNP program to actually fast track people in, hopefully a lot faster than what the federal program has been providing over time. But this is a new change to PNP, and one that I think we have several businesses in town here that will be able to take advantage of. Congratulations to the fire chief. Will, you guys did an amazing job at the open house. As usual, it's an amazing community event. I can't believe the number of kids that come out. Kids just love fire trucks, but they're afraid to sit in them. It's kind of a crazy thing. Anyway, great event. It was really well done. I had an opportunity to attend with Stephen and Chris from Harvest to kind of do the official first shovel for the harvest departments that are going to be under construction here in the next week or so. These guys like to move fast, and they're hoping that they in fact will have some doors available by early summer of next year, which would be awesome. Sandra already alluded to Oktoberfest. What an amazing community celebration that was as well. I got to do the kind of the official welcome, which was translated by a German student. It wasn't simulcast, but it was close to it, and it was a lot of fun. Echo Woody's comment about the Truth and Reconciliation Walk. Deb and I were there for that as well. It was wet, it was soggy, but it was a great day. It was, as usual, Joe Pierre does an absolutely amazing job of framing things and making everything seem so positive. I really admire his leadership. He is an awesome leader. And finally, kind of the hour before the Truth and Reconciliation Walk down in St. Eugene was the official kickoff of Purcell Collegiate. The students that will be attending this year were in attendance, along with their parents, teachers, the principal of the school, kind of everybody associated with it. And first day of class was last Tuesday. So Purcell Collegiate, it's been 5 or 6 years that we've been talking about it. It certainly is early days, and it's a bit of a pivot from the campus that we have been talking about, which is still, you know, frankly, at least 3 years out before we're going to see that campus. But in the meantime, the school this year is going to be contained for the first part of the year at St. Eugene, then in combination with the College of the Rockies, and that model will be in place for the next couple of years. So it was really, really exciting to see Purcell finally kick open the doors. And with that, I will leave it at that. Okay, given that we don't have anybody on the line with any tough questions for council tonight, we will adjourn to closed. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Cairns, thank you. Councillor McGuire seconds. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. So we'll take 2 minutes, clear the courtroom, and move to closed.